useful engines. Henry was so cross because this morning he had a passenger train to pull and there were sheep on his line. He grumbled about them dreadfully. They can sometimes be silly, said Hank, but hopeless. Who even cares, said Henry. I just don't bother with sheep anymore. Well, I've seen it in my old railway, said Luke. I saw sheep. I saw 10 sheep on my track, but I didn't bother with them too. I was like wanting them to be out of the way. Who knows, said Hank. What about a sheep? What about a sheep in a mine shaft then? I never heard of that one before. Sheep in a mine shaft doesn't make sense too, grumbled Henry. You're just making me really infident, he said. Who even cares, said Luke. Hank and I just want to have fun with you, that's all. Who knows, grumbled Henry. I'm not in the mood. When they're about to rest their mouths, Toby the tram engine had some news for the 3 engines. He said this to them. The Fat Controller would like you 3 to be useful. Now get on with the job straight away, he said. Fine, said Luke. Luke, said Toby, the Fat Controller wants you to pull a goods train. Take rocks to the quarry, slate to the mine shaft, and logs back to Henry's forest, and chickens back to Farmer McColl's farm. So I want you to be all really useful, he said. Yes, Toby, said Luke. Toby puffed away, and Luke puffed in to fetch his train. Luke was ready, but was really excited. So was Hank and Henry as well. They were all very glad to know what was going on. When Luke arrived, he was ready just in time. I think I'm ready, said Luke. Well, not yet, said his driver. Well, not yet, said his driver. Remember what Toby said? I know, said Luke. And with that, he was coupled to his goods train and was ready to set off once more than ever. Come on, said Luke, and Luke puffed away. He was behaving really useful and seemed along the line. What he didn't know was that Jack was pulling a truck full of mud and old dirty tools, and then his truck rattled and rattled, and with that the truck sank into the ravine, and the bricks of the track crumbled into the ravine below as the mud, slate and dirty things were tumbled onto the track, and now Jack was out of control and slipped in the mud below. Ew, said Jack. Now I can't get through, and where's my truck? Now he knew what was happening. Luke didn't know this. He was puffing around the track, thinking how cool he was. He was being a very useful engine on the Stoddle Railway, when he got up the bridge, he saw that dirty things, mud and slate were on his line, and then the rails were so slippery that Luke applied his brakes, but it was too late. Stop, 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 said Luke. On, urged the stupid truck, and with that, Luke crashed into the dirty bits and came off the rails and into the mud below. And the trucks came off the rails too. He and his goods train were in the mud below, and poor Luke And poor Luke wasn't useful at all. He was so upset. "I'll never be a useful engine now," he said sadly, and he knew what he had done. Jack felt sorry. He knew what he had done. And he did. And with that, he didn't know what to say. Jack stood there. Jack didn't know what to say. He was feeling very sorry for Luke. Luke stood there for days and surprised. And with that, Henry came in and was happy to see his friend again. "Having trouble, I see," he said. "Time to get you out of the mud." And with that, his loads on the goods train, his goods train was back on the rails, and Luke was the last one to be back on the rails. And with that, Jack and Luke were out of the mud. Luke couldn't move. He knew because of the mud. And with that, Henry had to help him. He was coupled to him, and then they puffed away. His goods train was delivered, and so was his deliveries, and with that, Henry was ready to take him home. When the two engines arrived back at home, while Hank had already finished his work, they realized that the Fat Controller wasn't there yet. Is he here?" said Luke. "No, he isn't yet," said Henry. They thought he wasn't there. But behind Nert's shed was the Fat Controller. "Well done, everybody," he said. "You are the most really useful engines on the island of Sodor. Now you have done really well, and now you will get your rest." "Yes, sir, thank you, sir," said the engines. They did enjoy it very well, and with that they became the most really useful engines on the island of Sodor, and the Fat Controller was very proud and really useful with them. He was a very happy boss on the island of Sodor indeed.